Good evening. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, Senior Correspondent for Englebrook Independent News, and welcome to this edition of the Federal Crime Report, where we bring you a roundup of significant federal criminal cases from across the western United States. Before we begin, it's important to note that federal criminal complaints, charges, and indictments are allegations only. Defendants charged in those matters are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in the court of law. Cases involving guilty pleas and sentencing have already resulted in convictions. Let's begin tonight in the state of Washington. Federal prosecutors in Seattle announced the sentencing of a Bellevue businessman who admitted to operating what authorities describe as a multi-million-dollar fencing operation that fueled organizations' retail theft throughout western Washington. 59-year-old Andre Boulin was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to conspiring to transport stolen property in interstate commerce. According to federal prosecutors, Boulin and his business partner operated a Bruin storefront known as We Buy Gold, Silver, and Electronics, where investigators say stolen merchandise were routinely purchased from shoplifters before being resold online through Amazon and eBay. The investigation found that the business dealt primarily on over-the-counter medication, health and beauty products, and other retail merchandises, much of them still being bearing anti-theft devices or retail identification stickers. Federal investigators estimated authorities recovered more than 74,000 stolen items valued at approximately $2.4 million when search warrants were executed in late of 2023. Court records further indicated the operation generated approximately $4.5 million in online sales between 2021 and mid of 2023 alone. During searching, the presiding federal judge stated that the sentence would have been longer were not the defendant's documented medical condition. Federal prosecutors also announced the sentencing of Jose Manuel Fraz Lopez, a Dominican national extradited from Colombia, to 96 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to conspiring to import cocaine into the United States and conspiring to money launder. According to court records, Homeland Security investigators spent months conducting undercover operation in Colombia, identifying Fraz Lopez as a cocaine supplier capable of arranging shipments designed for Seattle and other locations within the United States. Investigators say he also participated in laundering proceedings from narcotic transactions and discussed additional trafficking routines involving Florida and Spain. The sentencing judge noted Fraz Lopez a lengthy criminal history in the United States, including prior felony drug trafficking convictions before his removal from the country more than a decade ago. In Tacoma, another major narcotic investigation concluded with the sentencing of Daniel Hammond, a Puyallup resident convicted following a 4-day federal jury trial. Hammond received 11 years in federal prison for conspiring to distribute controlled substances as a part of what prosecutors describe as a drug trafficking organization linked to two white prison gangs operating throughout western Washington. The multi-agency investigation led by the FBI and DEA resulted in the seizure of approximately 223 pounds of methamphetamine, more than 830,000 fentanyl pills, additional fentanyl powder, heroin, cocaine, marijuana, hundreds of thousands of dollars in suspected drug proceedings, and well over 200 firearms. At sentencing, federal judge emphasized that Hammond's conduct represented a substantial criminal enterprise rather than an isolated criminal activity. Federal prosecutors in Portland announced the sentencing of a former private tutor to 15 years in federal prison after he was convicted of sexually exploiting a child online. According to court records, Erland Secret Richter, also known as Joshua Evans Huff, coerced a teenager victim in Germany into producing sexually explicit material over an extended period of time throughout online communication. Federal authorities say Vicker first established contact throughout social media platforms before manipulating the victim into sending explicit images and videos while directing many of the acts himself. The court also imposed 30 years of supervised release following his imprisonment and ordered restitution for the one victim. In Eugene, however, another child exploitation investigation remains in its earliest stage. Federal prosecutors have charged Blaine County Sheriff's Deputy Dylan Ford with multiple child exploitation offenses, including alleged sexual exploitation of a minor, enticement of a minor, and a receipt of child sexual abuse material. According to the criminal complaint, investigators allege Ford used encrypted messaging applications to communicate with multiple individuals believed to be under the age of 16. Authorities further allege search of electronic devices uncovered conversations requesting the production of explicit material. Ford has made his initial appearance in federal court and remained detained pending further proceedings. As with many criminal complaints, these allegations have not been proven in court, and Mr. Ford is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in the federal court system. Federal prosecutors also announced an indictment against Oregon Department of Corrections officer Jack Daniel Rolette on federal cyberstalking charges. According to the indictment, investigators allege Rolette created multiple fake social media profiles following the end of his personal relationship and used those accounts to post false and degrading statements about the victim. Federal investigators also allege electronic evidence ultimately linked the online activity to Rolette after he was denied responsibility during early state court proceedings. An indictment is merely an allegation only, and Mr. Rolette is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. A federal grand jury in Idaho has indicted Miran Kosic, a Bosnian national residing in Boise, on charges allegedly attempting to naturalization fraud and making false statements during the U.S. citizenship process. Federal prosecutors allege Kosic failed to disclose his alleged participation in prisoner abuse during a Bosnian conflict and alleged made false statements during an interview with federal authorities and immigration officials. If convicted, the naturalization fraud could carry penalties of up to 10 years in federal prison. These charges remain allegations, and Mr. Kosic is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in federal court. Federal prosecutors in Salt Lake City announced the sentencing of Miguel Miro Soto de Sandago to 60 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to possession of heroin with intent to distribute. According to court records, investigators seized more than 5 kilograms of fentanyl and 1 kilogram of heroin connected to the case. Following the completion of his prison term, court records indicate Soto Diazo Santos is expected to be transferred into U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for immigration proceedings. Also in Utah, Pishwa Yona Kofe received 9 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to operating a check fraud conspiracy that prosecutors say stole approximately $1.7 million from financial institutions. Investigators say the scheme involved stolen checks, fraudulent identification documents, shell bank accounts, and international transfers that ultimately financed luxury purchases and equipment shipped overseas. The federal court also ordered nearly $1.75 million in restitution. Another Utah case remains pending after a federal grand jury indicted Gwen Manet Charles Atkin, also known as John Atkin, on federal carjacking charges. According to prosecutors, Agate allegedly attacked a security guard with a metal bar with attempting to steal with the victim's vehicle in Salt Lake City. Federal court records allege the assault was captured on surveillance video and resulted in significant injury to the victim before police arrested the defendant nearby. The defendant has been ordered to detain pending further proceedings. As with every indictment, these are allegations only, and Mr. Agate is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Coming in Part 2, the Federal Crime Report will examine major federal prosecutions from Nevada, California, and Arizona, including large-scale fraud investigation, organized criminal allegations, violent crime prosecutions, and major immigration enforcement actions across the Southwest. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, Senior Correspondent for Englebrook Independent News. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Federal Crime Report. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, Senior Correspondent for Englebrook Independent News. As a reminder, federal criminal complaints and indictments are allegations only. Every defendant charged in a criminal case is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in the court of law. Cases involving guilty pleas and sentencings have resulted in convictions. We begin in Nevada, where federal prosecutors in Reno announced a superseding indictment in a homicide investigation stemming from 2022 killing of Reno Sparks Indian Colony. According to the indictment, Delshay Astor is now charged in first-degree murder with Indian Country, replacing an earlier second-degree murder charge. Prosecutors allege the victim, Anna Scott, was shot and killed before her body was placed inside a vehicle that was later set on fire. A second defendant, Joel Christie, was also charged as an accessory as the fact. Prosecutors allege he assisted effort to prevent investigators from apprehending those responsible. These are allegations contained in federal indictments. Both defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Federal prosecutors also announced charges against Blair Smith, a Reno woman accused of embezzling nearly $400,000 in federal grant funds intended to improve water infrastructure for the Yamba Shan tribe. According to prosecutors, the grant money has been awarded throughout the U.S. Department of Agriculture for an ongoing clean water project before investigators allege the funds were diverted. Smith has been charged with one count of federal program theft. Federal officials emphasized that protecting taxpayer dollars remain a priority, particularly for the Department of Justice expanding efforts targeting fraud involving federal programs. As with all indictments, these allegations remain unproven and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in federal court. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, Cynthia Marie Marbella was sentenced to 5 years and 10 months in federal prison after participating in what prosecutors describe as a year-long embezzlement scheme that stole more than $26 million from her employer. According to court records, Marbella and co-defendant duplicated company bonus checks, opened fraudulent credit card accounts, created forged financial records, and generated fictitious invoices with concealing the theft. Federal prosecutors said the proceedings financed luxury homes, expensive automobiles, private school tuitions, designer merchandises, and other personal expenditures. In addition to prison sentence, the federal court ordered restitution for the losses. In Los Angeles, federal prosecutors announced the sentencing of Ismaela Vega, who received 37 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to interfering with law enforcement during a violent civil unrest connection to immigration enforcement demonstration in June of 2025. According to court records, Vega admitted to throwing rocks and burning debris from overpass from a California Highway Patrol officer positioned below the vehicle where he was also targeted. Federal prosecutors said the action created a substantial risk of death or serious bodily injury to responding officers. The sentencing judge also ordered Vega to pay more than $253,000 in restitution. Federal prosecutors also filed a superseding indictment against alleged gang leader Eugene Henley Jr., also known as Big U. Henley already faced numerous federal charges including racketeering conspiracy, robbery, extortion, wire fraud, and tax-related offenses. The new indictment adds 7 additional felony counts, including allegations that Henley solicited fellow inmates to kill or seriously injure government witnesses and attempt to influence testimony in pending cases. The superseding indictment also alleged additional conduct involving prostitution-related offenses, wire fraud, and expanding allegations connected to the government broader racketeering case. Henley and multiple co-defendants are currently scheduled for trial in federal court. These allegations remain pending, and Mr. Henley is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Federal authorities also announced the sentencing of Olof Karros Gurason, a Swedish national and former executive of SBAR Inc., to 48 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to fraud and money laundering offenses. According to prosecutors, Gustafsson marketed products using names and likeness of deceased Colombian drug trafficker Pablo Escobar, advertising flamethrowers, foldable smartphones, cryptocurrency products, and other merchandises that prosecutors say customers paid but never received. Instead, investigators said customers often received promotional material or certified with return requests were denied using fraudulent shipping documentation. Federal prosecutors estimated the victim's loss exceeded $1.3 million and court-ordered restitution along with financial forfeitures. Federal prosecutors in Arizona reported another significant month of immigration enforcement activity. During 1 week of operation ending July 24th, prosecutors filed criminal immigration-related charges against 310 individuals, including cases involving illegal re-entry after deportation, unlawful entry of the United States, and human smuggling. Authorities highlight one case involving Rebecca Nuzal Sanchez, who is charged with transporting illegal aliens for profit after Border Patrol agents attempted to stop him in a pickup truck near the international border. According to criminal complaints, several occupants fled from the vehicle before being located by responding agents. These allegations remain pending, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in the federal court. Federal prosecutors also announced charges against Jose Raul Ambula Luca and Roy Ramirez Valuza following a traffic stop conducted by the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. According to investigators, Border Patrol agents determined several occupants of the vehicle were unlawfully present in the United States. Ramirez Valuza, in addition, charged with illegal re-entry following a previous removal. Both defendants are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in federal court. In a separate matter, members of the Phoenix family pled guilty to participating in a $2.2 million COVID-19 relief fraud scheme. According to prosecutors, Mohammed Mayo, along with parents Solzan El Sayad and Markapa Mayo, admitted to submitting fraudulent applications for Paycheck Protection Program and Economic Injury Disaster Loan funding. Federal prosecutors say the application falsified claimed business employed workers where they didn't, and allowing members to obtain approximately $2.2 million in federal relief funds. Mohammed Mayo also pled guilty in a separate firearm case involving unlawful possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and causing another individual to make false statements during a purchase of that firearm. Sentencing hearings are scheduled at a later date. Federal prosecutors also report another week of heightened immigration enforcement ending in July 31st. During the reporting period, the U.S. Attorney's Office filed criminal immigration-related charges against 216 individuals, including prosecutions for illegal re-entry, illegal entry, and alien smuggling. Among those cases was Sarah Deriza Rios Martin, who had been charged with transporting an illegal alien after Border Patrol agents allegedly discovered unlawfully present migrant fleeing from her vehicle during a traffic stop. Authorities also charged Hector Morocco Tuca Rivera with illegally re-entering after prosecutors alleged previously been removed from the United States following a felony conviction. These criminal complaints contain allegations only. Each defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Coming in Part 3, we'll continue with this month's federal crime report with major federal cases in New Mexico, Alaska, and Hawaii, including child abuse charges, border enforcement statistics, and domestic violence firearm sentencing, fentanyl trafficking allegations, and unlawful voting cases. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, Senior Correspondent for Englebrook Independent News. Stay with us. Welcome to the conclusion of this month's Federal Crime Report. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, Senior Correspondent for Englebrook Independent News. As a reminder, federal criminal complaints, charges, and indictments are allegations only. Every defendant charged in federal criminal cases is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in the federal court. Cases involving guilty pleas and sentencing have resulted in convictions. We begin our final segment in New Mexico. Federal prosecutors announced child abuse charges against Jonathan Volato, an enrolled member of the Pueblo of Santiago de Mango. According to the criminal complaint, prosecutors allege Lovato assaulted a minor in April of this year, striking the child multiple times before allegedly strangling the victim into unconsciousness. Court documents state the child escaped the residence and sought help from a family member before being transported to a hospital for treatment. Authorities reported the victim was later transferred to Albuquerque after suffering a brain injury. The case remains pending in federal court. As with every federal criminal complaint, these are allegations have not been proven in court, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Federal prosecutors also released their immigration enforcement statistics for the District of New Mexico. During the 4-week reporting period ending in July 31st, federal prosecutors filed charges against 112 individuals for illegally re-entering after deportation, 24 individuals for alien smuggling, 189 individuals for illegal re-entry of the United States, and 49 additional defendants charged with illegal re-entry combined with violations involving the newly established National Defense Area in New Mexico. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, many of the illegal re-entry defendants had previously criminal convictions ranging from narcotic trafficking and weapon offenses to forgery, child molestation, driving under the influence, and prior immigration violations. In Anchorage, federal prosecutors announced the sentencing of Dylan Owens to more than 6.5 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. According to court records, the offense stemmed from the November 2024 domestic violence incident in which Owens assaulted a domestic partner with a newborn child present. Federal prosecutors stated that during the assault, Owens pointed a loaded handgun at the victim before fleeing in her vehicle. Law enforcement later located Owens inside a stolen vehicle. Authorities recovered the loaded firearm, which had been reportedly stolen, along with the victim's property. At the time of the offense, Owen was prohibited from possessing a firearm because of a previous felony conviction and was serving probation on earlier armed robbery and assault conviction charges. Following his prison terms, Owens will also serve 3 years of supervised release. Federal prosecutors in Honolulu announced the indictment of Dakota Ilinolo, a former Kauai resident, on the federal fentanyl trafficking charges. According to the indictment, investigators seized approximately 81.5 kilograms of fentanyl during the execution of a search warrant in May of 2025. Following her arrest in July of 2026, prosecutors allege Ilona admitted to ownership of the fentanyl and acknowledged distributing of the narcotics to others. If convicted, the defendant faces a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years in federal prison. These allegations remain pending, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Federal prosecutors also announced criminal charges against Benaleta Escoa, a lawful permanent resident originally from the Philippines. According to court records, Escoa allegedly casted mail-in ballot during 2024 general election despite not being a United States citizen. Prosecutors allege Escoa acknowledged during an interview with investigators that she understood that she was not a U.S. citizen when she voted. The criminal complaint charged one count of unlawfully voting as an alien. As with every criminal complaint, these allegations remain unproven, and Ms. Escoa is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in federal court. That concludes this edition of the Federal Crime Report. Throughout the month of July, federal prosecutors across the western United States announced significant developments involving organized retail theft, international narcotic trafficking, financial fraud, firearm offenses, immigration enforcement, violent crimes, child exploitation investigations, and public corruption cases. Some of the matters we respond tonight result in convictions throughout guilty pleas and sentencing hearings. Others remain in early stages of federal criminal justice processes. As always, Englebrook Independent News is committed to reporting these developments accurately and responsibly while recognizing that every defendant facing criminal charges is entitled to the full protection of the United States Constitution. We will continue following these investigations and prosecutions as they move through the federal court system, and we will bring you significant developments as they occur. For continued coverage of federal law enforcement, public safety, and major criminal cases from across the United States, visit Englebrook Independent News online and follow our reporting across our digital platforms. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, Senior Correspondent for Englebrook Independent News. Thank you for joining us. Have a safe evening, and we'll see you on the next time with the Federal Crime Report. Good night.